Hello, everyone. Welcome to the new season of 415 Stories. I'm your co host, Taha. I'm going to get there why I said this in a second, but I'm so excited to be here with you today. It's been more than 1 year of silence since we did the first season, and now we are coming back with the second one. But this season is a little different than the first one. The first reason is that we are no longer a pure VC/slash startup podcast. Other than those topics, we will be also talking about a large variety of topics like philosophy, science, psychology, and pretty much anything that me, my co-host, and our guests are really interested into. And two, now as I mentioned, I do have a co-host along with me in this season. I believe will really add great value to this podcast, and I'm going to handle the mic to him for him to introduce himself. And yes, Tarkan Anlar is on the 415 stories for this season. Hi Tarkan, welcome to the show.
Hi, Taha. Thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here. It will be my first podcast, and I'm an entrepreneur. I founded Scotty in 2017. Scotty was started as a rideshare business. Now we pivoted to e-commerce delivery, and we are growing real fast. I'm excited to be on this journey as well. And I think on this journey we have seen lots of ups and downs. So I believe I have lots of things to share as well. Thank you.
Awesome. So, Tarkan, we will be hosting some really great conversations together on this podcast in this season and featuring really interesting individuals. And one of them is actually sitting next to us today, which he wrote an article on college around a month ago, which sparked my interest in the way that we think of education today. And it actually made me interested in, talking to him in this episode to learn about both himself and his views around the college. And also, he's an interesting individual. I want to dig into other topics as well. But yeah, without further ado, Ata Onat, the senior associate of Bravia Capital, is with us today. Hi, Ata. Welcome to the show.
Hi Taha, hi Tarkan. Well, I'm not sure if I'm that interested, but thanks for that. And I'm not sure if I have the best ideas on college, but I guess that article was just my thoughts today, looking back and seeing how world changed and like how I feel as a white collar, like a private equity senior associate. What would I have done at that time? So if it caught your attention, I'm glad.
Before we actually jump into chatting about everything about college, I want to hear your story first, and I believe our audience want to hear, what you did before and what's your journey. And I want to actually hear more about, what you did after college that led you a career in investing, and which I believe is a rewarding and lots of people really like, investing and other stuff, but doing it professionally is, I believe, is a really interesting job. So, what's the story, Ata? How did you end up where you are today?
Right. So I studied at Özyeğin University in Turkey. It's even hard to pronounce in Turkish, so I don't expect like foreign listeners to understand. And when I was studying there, I went for a study abroad at Michigan Ross School of Business. Great experience, by the way. Go Blue! And when I was there, I found this internship in my current company, and I was lucky because they had investments in Turkey actually, and I pitched that I could speak Turkish and so forth, and they were really open minded. They got me there as an intern. But a side story here is actually I was gonna go to Hong Kong because the main like headquarters of the firm was in Hong Kong. But Turkish government, as you know, as always, we are really angry at foreign governments. Turkish government had a dispute with China, and China stopped giving visas to Turkish people. And they were like, "You can't go to Hong Kong, so we'll take you to New York." And I said, "Okay." So I spent the summer there. As you mentioned, investing is really exciting because it's really dynamic, right? And I think in startups you build something, it takes time. Investing is more result oriented. You do a deal or you don't do a deal, right? You close a deal, you sell a company or don't sell a company. So it's very dynamic, intensive, and I loved it. It was amazing for a Turkish kid to be in New York on Park Avenue and so forth. So it was amazing, and they also liked me, and they said, you know what, go back to Turkey, we'll hire you, come back. So right after college, I went to New York, and it was a great experience, very international. I did deals in like Ghana, Brazil, Turkey, Vietnam. I was doing aircraft financing with Norway, Cambodia, China. So very exciting, very gives you that international perspective. And I think finance people, investing people are really good at perhaps not building. That's what Tarkan is good at, and startups guys are good at. But I think it gave me the perspective of understanding incentives, reading people, or negotiating with people. Because only way investing people gets results is through influencing others, right? We don't create anything, we don't build anything. So that was a great learning. But it also made me realize, I think, um, investing, private equity, venture capital, consulting, these are hot jobs, right? They are sexy. Everybody wants to do them, but it's not the best fit for everybody necessarily. And that was another thing that prompted me to write that essay about college, because we go for high prestige jobs without thinking what they entail and if we are really a perfect fit for that or not.
Yeah, which I believe is a problem, but in traditional societies is, I think more important to get hired in some place that will give you an entitlement rather than to be happy at a job that you'll be doing. And to follow on that, I want to get a little bit on the college story. So I think today the way that we look at education, and more importantly the education that lead individuals to their career paths, is, I believe, way more different than what it used to be in, let's say, 20, 30 years ago. But there are still some statical ideas that, one should study a specific type of area in order to become a professional in that specific industry. But I don't believe that is the case for most of jobs today. For example, Tarkan himself is not, a graduate of entrepreneurship, or you, as far as I know, haven't attended to any, entrepreneurship education prior, other than college. But I don't think it was something necessary, right?
Yeah, actually, on my case, I think learn learning how to learn is very important in this age, because most of the information you can find on the internet, and you can really have a chance to practice it. Maybe there was only a few absence from the school, that in the school or universities on the college you have this community that you build. But now there are lots of startups, like one of them that I joined, on deck, which helps you to build that community as well. So I think it is being disrupted day by day, and it will be very different. The education will be very different in the near future, in my opinion.
Got it. And I think there are two things here in terms of, education, and I believe three of us have a consensus here. One of the two things that people really value in education, I think, are the skills that you get out of it, and the community, as you mentioned, and the network that you form via joining a specific, group of the society. So for the skills part, I want to ask Ata here. Ata, do you think that, the skills that we learn in college? I know that it's a really generic question, but I believe you'll have a good insight here. Do you think that the skills that we learn in college today, in any given profession, is still a, valid skill set in order to do business today, whether, you become a professional or an entrepreneur, or an investor as yourself?
Yeah, I think the answer is only some of them. Like anybody who can, I think in any business, whether you're an investment bank, a startup, or whatever, if you can build some good decks, I think that's positive everywhere, right? If you can put some numbers into a spreadsheet and do some basic calculations, that's again positive everywhere. So those kind of skills, some schools give, I think that's fine, right? But there's also a lot of theory that, to be honest, you never apply into your work life. Having said that, though, I think we should also not expect college to teach you only things you will use. Then it's a very
Mhm.
utilitarian perspective, right? Then you only focus on what you will use in the job. I don't think that would be right as well. let's learn those skills. But I think one thing I would argue is you really learn the job at the job. Like I studied economics in Turkey,
Mhm.
by the way, so I wasn't a finance guy. And this is funny, actually. I failed my interview miserably. Like, the guy would ask me, like, what is EBITDA, and I would be like, is it this? He's like, no, it's not that. I'm like, oh, okay. So I couldn't learn anything, but I somehow convinced him. And then there's this famous NYU professor called Aswat Damodaran. He has everything online. I should send a thank you letter to him one day. I studied every material he has for like 2 3 months. And by the time I was in the internship, I actually knew finance really well, right? So it goes back to
Mhm.
Tarkan's point. You can learn most of the skills and ideas online right now. So the real importance of college, I think, is you have like-minded people. You talk with them, you exchange ideas with them, you learn from them. And also, I can tell this as someone who has been in investing world. Your network matters, man. Like, when I was in New York in my first couple of years, I couldn't source any deals because I didn't know anyone to source deals. I didn't know anyone in US market, in like, yeah, in other investment banks or law firms or in audit firms, right? You need your peers to have access to those opportunities, those deals. So I think college still offers that. But just as Tarkan mentioned, on deck or other programs, if you can get that community somewhere else, maybe that would disrupt the college system, you know?
Yeah, I guess so. And it's funny that you mentioned, investors are also trying to source deals as, doing a professional business development. But, I think most of people assume that, the only side of, the investor and the entrepreneur relationship that seeks something is the entrepreneurs. But in
No, the
reality,
best
it's actually,
deals. Yeah, best deals you gotta source, by the way. Best deals you gotta be around. And some deals, so in, I think, venture capital startups, they're more relaxed, but in private equity, a lot of deals might happen behind the doors. Like, you need to love the lawyers, by the way. They are great deal sourcers. Like, especially if you're doing business in emerging markets, in Turkey,
Mhm.
in Vietnam, in Ghana. Nobody in, like, New York Goldman Sachs knows what's happening in Vietnam. You need some, like, guys who studied in US, then went to Singapore, who does investments in Singapore, who herds it in there, and then you have access to that deal. And people don't realize it, but if you want to catch the good deals, you really need to be on the market and source those opportunities.
Got it. And I think also one of the things that makes college really valuable is having a playground where you can build business-like initiatives or some, communities, and you can do things by yourselves and learn, how to do it after college. And I think Tarkan has some experience doing those. Tarkan, how was it for you to, build some things, maybe for profit, non-profit in college, while it was not your main priority to, do such a thing?
Actually, I was lucky. We started a management club of the uh, college, which led us to have a great team without paying anything. So we were just organizing lots of events, lots of things, and we were. I learned the delegating things to other people and tracking them. So it was a. I mean, it was more than the lessons that they teach, but the things that we learn by practicing these things was very valuable for me. Also, it also helped me that the management club didn't stop there. Also, I wanted to build different projects. One of them was online management game. Because I was learning management, I wanted to make a multiplayer online management game, and all the team was built from with my friends. We were not making money, but we were not burning money except for the server costs. So, so it was a great chance for me to try and fail without burning any money, and that was a big game. Actually, there were 20,000 daily players, which made me to get more into building things. It showed me that if I want something, and if I organize people, I can create, and people would play, and like that was something made me believe in myself as well. So I think it's a great resource of human source that you can do things together, and it's that's why probably most of the successful startups have co-founders that they met in college, and they built great friendship there, and with that friendship they built some other startups and that succeeded. So yeah, the college has definitely one of the best part is to, like Ata mentioned, to be together with like-minded people, and you can start doing things there.
Awesome. Yeah, I also agree on the part that, the people who do have some practical um, experience in college are, I think, more likely to become successful later in their careers. But I think there's a misconception about, the opportunities that you come across in college. I see a lot of college students are, not being satisfied enough about the opportunities, the practical things that they can do while they're in college. They um, you know talk about they can find internships. Maybe they're not that into doing some traditional college club stuff, but I don't think it's really valid for entrepreneurs. But I think there's a large portion of the college students who are not really satisfied about the opportunities that they find in college. Is it at perspective that you think some students have, or is it kind of like a reality that happens to be in some part of the world?
Well, I think firstly, anything anybody thinks is a perception, right? There
Yeah.
by definition, it has to be a perception. Um, my view, my perception is, I think there are actually good opportunities, but you gotta be hustling for them, right? You gotta be going after them, and sure, like not all of them will be super cool. I mean, I went to Isaac in Poland, by the way, and I was a volunteer English teacher. I didn't know what I chose, and actually I thought I was gonna stay in a nice dormitory. I stayed in an orphanage with like a family. It was an orphanage house with like 10 kids, and I was in the like downstairs basement, and it was a cool place. They painted it and stuff for the kids, so I lived there for a month, and it's certainly uncomfortable and not the party scene I was hoping for. But actually, it was a great experience. Like I taught kids English. I had to go to school and like be a teacher, which is super hard, by the way, to speak like 40, 50 minutes. Respect to all teachers now. Even that was a small experience, but that helped me a lot. And as long as you pursue, I think you can extract value from the school. Like you can do Erasmus, you can go to exchange. Schools have some like agreements with some companies. You do one internship there, one internship there. And by the time you finish college, you have like 4 or 5 internships for 5 different industries, 2, 3 different countries, right? That's better than not doing anything. I mean, that person already knows something. That person already was in work environment and learned how things were moving forward. So my general view is even if you believe the opportunity sucks, if you don't have other option, go ahead and do it. Like you'll learn something in the end from that. Better than not doing anything for sure.
I think we mostly talk about the benefits and the pros about the college. Do you think that there are some negative sides of going to college, or maybe negative effects that someone can embody into their characters while they're in college? I do have some ideas, but I want to hear if you guys have it first.
I can
That's
go
a good
first.
question.
Actually, yeah, this is a great question. Actually, I think if you are going to college, that you believe some people will teach you things, and with that information, you graduate and you will get great things done. I think you are mistaken because, like, let's assume you want to become a bicycle rider, and there is a teacher telling you how bicycle works and how the history of bicycle and the accidents that can occur on bicycle, etc, etc. Like they can tell everything about bicycle, but if you don't get on a bicycle yourself and fall and stand up and try and do the things, you will never learn how to ride a bicycle. So the school can give you a basic information about anything, but it is only you that will learn what you can do. So college will not magically give you any thing. It is you that you can acquire those skills.
I agree. I agree. I think that this is a very fundamental question about the society as well, right? College is a very embedded institution. Everybody in the world goes to college. Almost like everybody has to go to college. That's the perception, right? So to break that is really hard. But if we were to do some first principles thinking, I think I really believe we do not need the college education we have right now. If the goal of the college is to get a good job, I bet that you can spend that 4 year in other things and learn the job much better. Like instead of waiting 4 years to go to finance, honestly, when I was 18, give me 1 year of like some basic theory. Next year, take me to finance. You'll do fine. You'll definitely do fine. So the perception that you need college to get into a job, I completely disagree. And I think there will be other innovations that will come. I already see some edtech firms, by the way. However, with anything, it's such a big part of society to getting that stamp, right? Getting that validation, that brand, whether it is Ivy League or in Turkey, I don't know, it is like whatever the schools are. That's what college is selling right now to parents, right? And changing that will be really hard, I think. Although I believe it has to change over time.
And I think another differentiation here is following the traditional career paths, and the other one is, drawing a path by yourself, which is non-conventional but leads to uncertainties along with it. And also, I don't think it is for everyone to, follow something really unconventional and go through a lot of uncertainties. And it is, I think, it really much about the person's character and the goals in life rather than someone can do it or not. But I don't know, Tarkan, do you think that everyone can, in theory, follow an unconventional path rather than, just following what the society tells them to do?
I think definitely. I mean, there it of course depends on the person, but if someone wants something, they can uh, get, go on their own path. Actually, there is a great thing. I will get into philosophy here, but Nietzsche has a great thing that he tells, like being the camel first, which actually tells like you as a camel, you just go on the road that society draw you. So you keep on there and you try to get yourself understand, but it is a long and very difficult path. Not everyone can go the path that society draw as well. Not everyone can go to college as well, but these people can be camel. But after that, some people can be lions, can turn into lion, which means that uh, they can fight with the things that society wants you to be, and then you try to become yourself, but this time you're a fighter. You just don't listen anything that's not anything, but the things that doesn't fit you in the society. But this needs a huge fight against society. But if you can become a lion, then at the end of this journey you can become a child, which is open for anything, excited with everything, which is not fighting but learning. So becoming again a child is the way to be yourself and to be free, according to Nietzsche. Why I'm telling this long story? This is because really important. Some people can find themselves, can stay child from the day they born, like Picasso. Like he has a quote about this, I guess. It's all I can't remember the quote exactly, but it's all staying. It's the most important thing for an artist to stay child, something like this. But we can check that. But some people, they can find themselves very early, at the age of 5, 7. Mozart, right? He started to play music. I don't believe that he went to college. But some people can find themselves when they go to college and drop out, and then choose their own path and build things, great things. But some people can do it after the college. So it depends on the timing, or uh, your personal development, or I don't know, maybe um, like I don't know, like it depends on the situation or the person or the time. But yes, any human being has potential to go on his own way, doesn't necessarily need to follow the path that society uh, draw for us. So short
Hmm.
answer is yes.
There were many good points, Tarkan, you made actually. I'll make few one. For instance, like we forget this, but in 16th, 17th century, one of most of the scientists that we call right now were not scientists. Like Darwin wasn't a scientist. Darwin was a someone who was interested in nature, and he was taking very detailed notes. Actually, the other guy who discovered like Darwin's evolution ideas was a priest. Like he was a priest in Germany, I believe. He also had the same thoughts. We learned that he wrote a similar idea about evolution 56 years later. So there we have evidence already that you do not necessarily need to have that, right? I think, I mean, you made some really good comments, and I'll add one thing there. The the idea that, for instance, Picasso found it when he was a kid, he is lucky, man. He is super lucky. And I see the childness, like I think Walter Isaacson, like his books are really good about like Benjamin Franklin and Leonardo da Vinci. Like they're like really curious. I mean, Leonardo da Vinci was apparently checking like how is people's eyes, like how the light comes and how do you see. He was paying attention to that stuff, which is impressive. But the point I will make, and I'll connect it to the article I made, uh, the problem I see right now is we are starting to optimize what we will become very early. Like in college, we decide that I will study law. And actually, many people who studies law, I'm pretty sure 70% or so ends up being a lawyer. You make a decision about rest 40 years future when you are 18. I mean, I chose economics because I didn't want to study business in Turkey because business is considered bad in Turkey, which is a big dilemma in US. Going to business school is prestigious. In Turkey, if you go to işletme, to business, are like, oh, so like you only could got in there. Oh, that's bad. So I didn't want to say that. Because of that, I studied economics, man. That's the only reason I chose. I spent my 4 years in that, and then I got into finance because it's aligned with economics, right? Like a little bit of numbers and so forth. But I didn't even question if this was the right path. Like I didn't recheck my assumptions, and I can assure you, millions of people do that because I see it in my friends. Like they start with marketing, they stay with marketing, and by the time they are 30, they're like, "Oh man, actually, like I don't like this," or damn, I want to do something else, but it's too late for me, right? So that premature optimization, that's a big issue. Some people find it when they are kids, good for them. But many of us, I think we should keep exploring. We should live like Greek people, like they were like soldiers and also in they are politicians, philosophers, like Cicero or Seneca, like they were doing all these kinds of things. I think maybe we should stop specializing a little bit and also become a little bit generalists.
By the way, Ata, when you were talking, it reminded me like lots of these guys had issues with their fathers. Like that's Einstein, Picasso, or sorry, Leonardo da Vinci, or these guys. Many of them had some issues with their fathers because the father role is really important. They just mostly choose a path before you decide your own path, and they should become a lion against their fathers first. So they fight with their fathers to go on their own path. So mostly they have this problematic relationship with their fathers, and then it becomes the same problems becomes with the society as well. But yeah, it reminded me when Atal start mentioned these names.
Yeah, this premature optimization is a really interesting topic. Ata. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And okay, let's say that we all do agree on that, everyone can do anything, let's say in theory. But the next question first comes to my mind is why can't anyone do everything? So just because I know lots of people who wants to do something, let's get a little bit out of the college and let's talk about it more in life. They do want to do something. They are really passionate about it. They think is a really reliable path for them to move on, but they don't do. I think there are different reasons. There are maybe several of them, but I want to hear from you. Why do you think when someone wants something but cannot do that?
It's first of all, you need to pay the price. And one of the price is not what you want to do, but what you will not do. For example, if you want a good shape, you shouldn't be eating lots of calories and chocolates and go out every night, drink with your friends. You need to sacrifice lots of things to have that one thing that you want. So not everyone is okay with sacrificing this because it's also that we can find lots of reasons why this is happening, but not everyone sacrifices for the things that they want. So to sacrifice things for the thing that you want, you have to have a strong desire for that. If you are just telling, I will do this, but not with a big desire behind it, I think it's mostly people choose not to sacrifice. Ata, I am sure, has a
I
psychological
have
additions to
uh
this, but
not
yeah.
psychological, but I loved what you said, and let's go one more step. So people are scared of sacrificing other things, let's say, right? And I agree with that. I think I did that uh, in multiple cases. Why they are afraid of sacrificing? Let's say a lot of entrepreneurs, like everybody, if you talk with anyone, honestly, white collar, 27, 30, man, I want to start a business. I want to do that. Well, why are you not doing that, right? Because they are avoiding taking risk right now. I myself avoided taking risk for a long time too. Then let's ask the second question: why am I avoiding taking risk? I think at that point you come to a few points. One, individual differences. I think people have different risk appetites. That's clear, right? There's gamblers, there is like very safe players. So there's character that really affects. But the second point, I think, and it goes back to what Tarkan mentioned about his college experience, it's about what you do in your earlier years. If you took some risks when you were a kid, if you took a little bit of risk, a little bit of, I don't know, trying selling this and that, you already built that knowledge, know-how, that actually taking that risk is not that bad. Actually, it's you don't need to feel that shy, right? The sooner you do it, the more comfortable you get with it. Actually, I'll connect it to neuroscience, Tarkan. I just remembered. So they did tests on people who like soldiers who jump through the planes and they're like parachute army officers. Okay, they checked their cortisol levels in the beginning of the training and in the end of the training. The guys who started in the beginning of the training had a huge cortisol spike, stress hormone. The moment they got into the plane, they are stressed, right? They are gonna jump in. But by the end of the training, the cortisol spike is only at the moment of jumping, and then there's nothing. They got used to the activity of jumping from the plane. I think many things in life are similar. You first need to do it a little bit, and you will get stressed, man. You'll have some stress, but then body has this homeostasis, right? It will get used to that. It will balance it, and I think that's many people avoid. They don't take the initial risk, initial sacrifice, then they never build that resilience. And then 5 years later, 10 years later, it seems like a super hard thing. That's my general view on these things. And by that logic, by the way, we should push ourselves to take some stupid risks. And that's the next step of the discussion.
Ata, I want to say really this is really interesting, taking the risks earlier or be like learning things earlier. Why it is important? Because at the later age, there are other things that you build. You start to work for a company, then you make a senior role in that company, and then your salary is too high, and taking the risks, that risk makes less sense. Because in the beginning, when I was starting the entrepreneurship life after the college, I had nothing to lose. Like what I didn't have any role in any company. I didn't have anything to lose actually. I was just going to try. If I fail, it will be a failure. So it is really important to get these things early if you really want to do. But still, I don't believe any time is late. Like if you one day at 30, 40 decide with a big desire that you feel you find the right thing to do, you can get out of the position that you are and start doing. But again, I'm going to the philosophy. Sartre says, hell is other people. Because now you are 40, there are lots of people who knows you with these titles, with these tags. It is very tough to get rid of all these tags and get into the arena again. And now I was a salesman in this company, or I was an engineer. Now I am going to crypto, and the people like, are you crazy? You have this amazing job, you did great things, and now you are getting out of this. Are you like, people will start judging, and that's creating another barrier to do these things, in my opinion.
You are like more trained on this topic more than me on not caring about what people think. How do you do that?
Oh, I used to care a lot. And at one point, you start to see if I think this is really great. What I have been through, lots of ups and downs. So you start to see that nobody actually cares that much. You fail, nobody even knows that you failed. Like only you know, and it becomes the center of your life because of our ego. Probably we are in the center of our lives, and we think like people would care too much about what we do or what we think. But in the real life, nobody is thinking you as much as you do yourself. And if you look at the whole universe and whole time, no, but what other things would eventually mean nothing for me, and it has no benefits. uh, I mean, it has less benefits than uh, than in real in my mind. So after these lots of ups and downs, I can say that I started to fear less. As Ata told, when you jump out of the plane one time, it gets less and less scary. So once you failed a few times, it gets less and less scary to fail on anything. For example, this is my first podcast, and I even don't know how am I gonna do it, and it is not even my native language, and my English is not as good as yours, guys. But I still try anyway, and I don't care if I suck. I mean, this will be an experience for me. I think it happened by time, by trying lots of things and failing on many things.
Perfect. Ata, do you have an example on this from a psychological standpoint?
Well, I mean, I think whatever activity you do a lot, those neurons get stronger and stuff, right? I think that part is there. I have one comment about what Tarkan said a bit earlier, actually, that when you, for instance, quit your job, you want to quit your job and go to crypto, people will be like, "Oh man, why are you doing that? Like that's stupid, that's crazy." So there's one nuance here, actually. In US and parts and subcultures in US, like in SF or parts of New York, maybe Miami right now, people are actually more supportive of those actions, right? So the culture and the environment is actually different and might be even supportive of that risk. So someone who is there, that's much easier for them to take the leap. Try that, right? They are surrounded by those people. Everything, actually, they are constantly primed for taking risk and trying that and this. So then come to Turkey, and maybe Istanbul is better. Let's go to Anatolia, man. Let's go to Izmir, where I am from. You'll get 10 times more resistance because the perception is startups are the stupidest thing ever, right? And then it's even harder. So on one hand, actually, all those guys in Turkey, even China, Vietnam, very high uncertainty avoidance cultures. I think Hofstede, this famous guy, has like these dimensions. Turkey, Middle East, Asia, they don't like uncertainty, right? They want to avoid it. It's even harder to do it in those places. And then now I will connect this to this college point. When you are surrounded by people, like imagine this, you are surrounded by five guys from government. Let's say your friends are all government officers, and all they talk to you is like I'll get my salary in the end of the month. I'm going to holiday end of the month. Like, oh, it's a chill life. It's good. And in another scenario, you have five friends. One of them is in crypto. One of them is in edtech. One of them is in fintech. One of them is, I don't know, whatever is eating. But all of them are taking risks and trying and so forth. The guy in the second group is more likely to try things, more likely to take risks. And one thing people miss is, honestly, I can't believe like we don't realize this. By being an employee, you cap your upside. I don't care if you are in investment banking or private equity, unless you're a partner, you capped your upside. You're going to get 50K, 100K, 200K bonus when your company makes $100 million. You capped your upside. Only way for you to break that linear relationship between the input you have and the output is to own equity, right? And that means risk. Unless you take some risk, you'll never get equity. And unless you take some risk, you'll never become that. You'll only say that, oh, these guys are super rich, like, oh, these lucky guys, right? But bro, you didn't even take the risk. And that's all of us should realize. I always talk with my friends in Turkey. We say, wish we were in New York, in Miami, and this and that, doing that. But man, we didn't take the risk yet, right? And what are we talking about? First, we should do that jump, and it's sooner the better, right? And I hope people like my sister who graduate from college in Turkey, they'll be taking these risks sooner. For instance, I will tell her, forget about corporate jobs, white collar in FMCG or I don't know, like McKinsey. Come on, like don't do that. Go to a startup, try few things, and I think we should support the next generation doing that. It will be really good for them.
Ata, this was amazing. This is amazing. By the way, let me tell you one thing. It is really characteristics. I think it happened by time, and I didn't do it on purpose. But for example, I was seeing lots of things about NFT lately in the Twitter, and I was started to interested. I was like, what is this? And I started to read a few books. For example, the first metaverse coined in a book called. Neil Stephenson. uh, Snow Crash, yeah, Snow Crash. That's an amazing book. But again, I was reading all of these things, but I couldn't. I realized that I was not learning as much as I wanted. So then I find a friend. I started to share little bit funny things on Twitter. Then I started to get attention from friends who are interested in that. Then I started to talk with a friend who was in the business of NFT and this Web3 world whole. And I asked them to show me a little bit, and he just told me a few things, and then I started to say, oh guys, I can help you with this and that. And they asked, what do you want, Tarkan? I said, I just want to learn these things. I'm so interested in that, like in this, so I don't care what are you gonna give me. I just want to be in the team, in the core team, so I can learn better. And they accepted me to the core team. And last two meetings, I can say I joined two meetings of them. I learned much more things that I learned last 2 months, because as I mentioned in the beginning of the conversation, I was now riding on a bicycle, and I had this uh, risk of falling down from the bike, but also I was experiencing that less safer but more into it. I don't know. So I think I agree with Ata. Jump to the thing that whatever you want, just start sharing with world, and you will find like-minded people, and then you jump into that without knowing that you might have no idea. You can be the most stupid person in that area, but if you get into that, if you start with people who are doing things on those things, you get to learn better and better and better. That's why, Ata, I agree. If you want to build a startup, join a startup. It's one of the best way to learn how things work.
And in your case, you got into the community, by the way. This is the beauty of internet. Like, you met these NFT guys, God knows where they were. They were in US or Miami or Russia or wherever, right? But you can connect with them right now. How valuable that is. Like, for instance, I may be living in a small town in Turkey, and let's say I'm really interested in some kind of NFT, like NFT with Turkish kebab NFTs, let's say, okay? And I may
That would
find
be
another
amazing.
I may find another person who loves Turkish kebab NFTs, maybe in New York, man. There's a good Turkish community in New York. And you can connect with that person over your interest, thanks to internet, all these guys who are building it. And I think that's amazing, to be honest. That's next generation is really lucky. And Discord is like that, right? Like, there's few other communities you can see on Reddit. People like have really good communities. They share information with each other, and that's really cool, I think. Kids should also, like, college students should leverage this. I don't know if they are, but they I tell my sister, use Twitter. You can meet anyone on Twitter.
Yeah, definitely. I think one of the things that you know um, skyrocketed my curiosity and also my personal and professional development was um, changing my interests via using the internet from the junk things to things that is both fun and educational. So for example, I was spending probably like 3-4 hours on Instagram just scrolling through the images stories, but I changed it to scrolling through Twitter. It is still an unhealthy behavior. I don't try to justify it by saying this is educational, but at least there are some things that I can pick to my mind via just following some people in a specific industry, or just getting some daily inspiration to the people that I admire. And it's, I think, a really good way of doing it. So I think yeah, I think we should give some advice, not just to the the college students, and also to the individuals who want to start something, or who want to jump through somewhere but couldn't find the courage to do it yet. What would you advise them to do, or what would you do if you were to jump into a new area, if you were to give someone an advice on that context, Tarkan?
Okay, but I think you're the real expert. You'll give better answers, I think, on this one. I didn't do many jumps. I think one jump for me was New York. Another jump was I went to a really risky project in Vietnam from New York. And I think firstly you gotta take the leap, man. Like if you don't do that, nothing happens, right? First leap, you gotta take some risk. And so first you jump and then you got into an uncertain environment. I read this that when you're in a new area, your brain actually develops for the first couple of weeks because you are trying to map the new area, you are trying to learn the new area, and that's good for your actually development. But when you go to a new place, first thing is, first 4 weeks it will always be hard. That's my rule. First 4 weeks I don't have a right to say anything negative about anything. You just go, you just suck it up and try doing something. Don't expect output right away. That's a very big mistake actually. Like this Twitter, Instagram, everything very quick, so we are really used to like getting an output really quickly, right? The result must be there real quick, but real life takes more time. And I mean, I can give you my sister's experience. She went to Istanbul to study. She didn't like her dorm, and classes were remote anyways. And in the first couple of weeks she was like, I want to go back to Izmir. I think, yeah, this sucks. And I told her, just write this down, wait a month. Okay, write this down, wait a month. Now I guess she's constantly partying in Istanbul and she loves it and she doesn't want to go back. And my mom got sad because she initially said, I'm coming back, right? It's always like that. You'll get used to it. Just suck it up for a while, endure for a couple of weeks. I think it's really important to try and be patient with the results. And eventually it will happen. If you still don't like what you do a couple of months later, then okay, reconsider. But one mistake we have is we quit too early these days. I think we got softer and softer just by the environment and everything. Just endure a little bit longer and you'll see some results. And you got to do the leap. But Tarkan, I mean, I expect you to give a much better answer because you did this. I mean,
I think before this, I can just give an advice to the guys who are listening us. The book Courage to be Disliked. That's one of the best books that I have read lately. This is one of the most important things. I think getting into the new thing, what stops us to get into the new thing? We just start thinking what they are gonna think about us. We think that we can find lots of excuses that, oh, we don't know this, and we like, our brain is trying to save us from the risk of looking stupid and to be disliked by others, and lots of speaking happening in your brain not to do that. So what I do mostly, I just go to I just find anything I can read on the subject, anything I can watch in the beginning, just to look a little bit more less stupid than normal, and then I accept that I am the beginner. You can look my tweet from about NFT. Any advice, guys, for a beginner on these subjects, DAO and DeFi, these kind of things? You should accept that you are a beginner, and you should accept that you can do stupid things because you are just starting, and let others know that this is something that you are going to do, but you are just beginner. So excuse me for the stupid things that I'm gonna say. When I joined this team, I really loved that I was the most uh, I didn't know anything. The guys were talking great things, and I was just listening and trying to understand. Same thing happened when I went to Silicon Valley. I was the I was definitely in these rooms. I am not the smartest person. In like, I am learning. I am learning from them. I love learning. Period. By the way, I love learning new things. So just don't just I think we need to lower our ego when we are getting into things and try to absorb anything that we can learn. When I went to first Silicon Valley, I was looking what the other guys reading. I didn't know what to do there. I was talking with people. Also, I was taking notes of what others reading, and from I was directly buying. Like, I remember really, instead of buying my lunch, I was going and buying the book that some people that I admire was reading, and reading it in a just few days to understand what is written there. And why? Because this successful guy spending his 4 hour, 5 hours, 6 hours for this book instead of doing something fun. It was like a treasure for me. I think reading these things, that what I want to learn, that others are reading, was one of the things. Watching these videos, like, you can reach any information now, as we talk. So don't be scared. Don't be scared of being disliked. Don't be scared of seem stupid. Don't be scared of fail, and try to learn as much as you can. This is what I can say, what I try to do until now, and it works for me.
There's a saying by, I think, Epictetus or someone. If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. I think that aligns with what you say. And also, another thing that as the humankind, are tend to do is comparing our level 1 to someone's level 1000. When we are trying to learn basketball, we are comparing ourselves to Michael Jordan. I mean, that is our benchmark. Whatever we do, we are tend to look at the people who do it at their best, and we are likely to feel bad about ourselves, saying that maybe I'm not good for this, maybe I don't have the talent for it, maybe I am not smart enough to do what these guys are doing. But it's a total misconception, I think, because everybody starts at looking like stupid. Everybody in Silicon Valley was once a child, and they learned through all the things. Everybody in investing didn't know anything about money when they first started. If someone wants to do something, it's the first way is to do being content to be thought foolish and stupid. I think that was a good point. Thank you for that talk.
I'll add a comment to this actually. One of them is, I think, yeah, we really do exaggerate how smart, or like, I think you can see some people are smart, but then you get into those environments and or next to them, and you're like, oh, I'm actually able to make a normal comment, and I don't look so idiot next to them. Once you realize that, you're like, huh, actually, it's okay, man. Like, I can talk. That was the realization for me when I went to New York. Like, even when I went to Michigan, the Ross School of Business, I was shy. I was like, I'm from Turkey. Like, I studied in Turkish school, and then I was like, oh, okay, this is fine. So the first thing is, I agree. Don't think that those people are so far ahead. You generally can do fine. The second point, actually, Taha, it will contradict what you say a little bit, but as far as I know, so they do these like socioeconomic status research, and they look at people's happiness and how do they compare themselves to. And every research shows that actually people are more likely to compare themselves to their peers. And if they are doing relatively better compared to their peers in terms of income, they are actually happy. So you can be in a poor person in a village, but if you are the village person who has 5 cows versus average of 2, you're actually much more happier. Your stress levels are much lower and so forth. From this, I'll connect to the point of choosing your environment really well, because you will benchmark yourself against them. Okay, so you can be around, let's say, your friend group from high school. You are one of the top guys there. If you stay there, you'll be happy, but actually you will probably not have incentive to develop yourself more. There's no pressure, there's no stress to push yourself better, right? You need to go to the next step, whether it is Istanbul or then London or New York or Mars maybe in the future, right? You constantly need to put yourself into new environments where you're not the top guy, and then you will force yourself to read, just like Tarkan said, right? Tarkan said they were reading a lot, so I said I need to read. But if Tarkan is around people where he's already the top reader, he's already the smartest guy, he has less incentive to do more. I think we gotta pay attention to that as well.
That's awesome. By the way, when you told that you compare with your peers, it reminded me something from Osho. In his book, he says, uh, they give example how poor people are happy in Africa or India, and they tell it something like a good thing. Although they are so poor, they are more happy. Blah blah. Of course, they are gonna be happy. He says they haven't seen a better life. I mean, it is their life, and they can be happy if they compare themselves with their peers, right? So it is not something, an argument to say that it is better to be poor, to if you become a poor, or if you stay poor you will be happy. It is nonsense, he says. Just when you were talking about this, it reminded me that. So really, if you try to be uh, if you there is a great quote: if you are the smartest in the room, you are in the wrong room. Try to be in a room, always try to be in a room that you are not the smartest, so that you can learn things from them, so then you can grow. And I think it helps a lot, as Ata mentioned, who you spend your time with. As you mentioned, on Twitter, if you are following some awesome people, you learn from them. Still, you don't need to even spend time together. You can just follow them. You can see what they are sharing, and you get interested in what they share, and you improve yourself. So it's a great way to become better. I mean, Twitter is a great tool if you use it wisely. And also, uh, there is one more thing I have to add, uh, but I forget. Okay, sorry. Go.
I love that. I love that. On top of Twitter, by the way, Tarkan, you're so right. Like you have a chance to get into the mind of a Stanford professor or some like good startup founder. You can see how he writes, what he thinks, what he reads, because they quote some stuff, right? The other end of the spectrum is like you can go to Stanford, check their like professors. So that's what I do. I go to Stanford neuroscience department, check the names of the professors, check their YouTube videos and podcast videos. Then I'm in the brain of this neuroscience professor who spent like 25, 30 years studying at Stanford, where I'm not there, obviously, but I can get his ideas, his main findings and main ideas. I mean, you can do this anywhere from the world, and that's such a huge opportunity. So hopefully these like I mean, guys, if there's any college students or other people are listening, do that. Like the podcast, Spotify, YouTube, whatever. And you know what, Taha? Maybe we should do something like if there's any college students listening, we should buy like 10 books. So one book to each one of them. We can send it on Kindle or whatever if they are interested. And at least we do something good for them as well, right?
Yeah, let's do that. Let's give 10 the courage to be disliked to 10 listeners listening to this podcast.
That's amazing. Let's give it. By the way, I remember what I was gonna say. I told you that I forgot. It is from the book of how Courage to be Disliked Again. It is not a bad thing. The feeling of inferiority. So feeling inferior is actually a great thing for you to improve. That's what something I learned from that book. Was I was amazed with this information. So if you are not feeling inferior, if you are feeling amazing, great, then you were you gonna try to grow or become in a better position, right? So not the complex one. I mean, the book of course tells it much better and deeper, but that feeling of feeling inferior is really useful feeling for you. So Ata, I love the idea. Taha, let's do this because one of the most important subjects were around this book. So it will be very useful for these students, and I mean for the
I
idea.
agree.
Definitely. And this advice is coming from the man who skipped the lunch in order to buy a book. And now you even don't have to skip the lunch to get a book. We are giving it to you. So I think we can find a good way of, picking the winners for this. But yeah, just after you listen to this episode, you'll probably see something that we tweet or we share on Instagram that you can see how to enter the draw. But yeah, that was a great idea, Tat. Thank you for that. And thank you so much today for joining us. It was an amazing chat. And I learned something really exciting for him to dig deeper later. And yeah, it was really good. Thank you for taking time to join us today.
Ata,
Yeah,
thank
likewise,
you.
guys. Like, I think this will be good. I'll be listening and keep. I mean, this is a risk. You're taking another risk here, Tarkan. So go ahead and congrats to both of you already.
Thank you, Ata. Thank you.
Awesome. And if people want to talk with you, Ata, how they can reach you out?
I mean, I have a Twitter. They can find me on LinkedIn easier, I guess. But Twitter, if you find me there, right out Tawanat, you would find someone. I have a Central Park background on my Twitter picture. If you see that, that's probably me.
All right, everyone. This is the end of the first episode of the second season of 415 Stories. Hope you enjoyed it. If you want to have any questions that we talk about this episode, just feel free to let us know on Twitter via our usernames. We will drop these links below. And also, as we mentioned, we will have a giveaway. Please keep an eye on your social channels for that. And also, I'll link some books and the contents that we mentioned in this episode in the um, description below. So if you want, you can just check them out. And thanks for listening. Talk to you on the next episode.